Welcome back, friends. It is time for our fourth matchup of the evening. Outsiders vs Team BDS. Let me just claim my drop. All good to go. Hello. We are ready for our Russian team to start off a bit later than the usual versus BDS is fresh.
None of us have prep on this. We're all just watching the Twitch stream to get our drops. On these laptops and these tablets.
I have my prep right here.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Nerd.
Me.
Okay, now you're exposing me,
That's
Milos.
prep.
That's my prep, yeah. It was a joke.
You were
Mine is just
trying to...
backfired.
How
His
many
looks like
clips
that.
do you want per day?
I'm just going to stick to making cat noises now.
His prep looks like that. Mine is a WordPad document.
And honestly,
In fairness, I started out with what you've got,
Yeah, I don't.
and I've
need
evolved
more.
over time.
Yeah, you need all of that. I can just talk about it. I still know it better.
True.
I don't even need any of that. I just have it all in here.
Sure you do, buddy.
Let's talk about our teams. First up, hey, last time you put me on the spot and asked me, hey, can you be the analyst for this one? And did I not do a good job of it?
Yeah,
best-
those were the glory days. We had a nice, relaxing desk then.
The best analyst desk we've had so far, honestly, is when he was completely quiet. When he didn't say
Him,
a word.
not me.
Yeah.
Not you.
I did a best mime impression,
Yeah.
and Fabian loved it because he just got to speak and speak and speak and speak.
Well, Fabian, would you like to speak a bit more on outsiders in this case? What can they offer in this game? Because BDS right now, I mean, they look very vulnerable, open for outsiders to take.
You know what my favorite character of all time, Borat, would say? Wah wah wee wah. Because that's what we are getting from outsiders.
I thought that was medics.
No, it's not medics, it's Borat. But they're very much up and down. It's just hard to understand the stuff that they do sometimes. Like, they go and beat G2, and then they go up against Team Secret with a coach. I'm not going to say the word in between. And they lose against Team Secret with a coach, but they manage to beat G2. But how?
Here's my impression of outsiders back through ever since I was competing, probably before I was competing, was they'll get wins, they'll win the games they shouldn't, and they'll lose the games that they should win. And it's as simple as that. They've always been that team around 5th, 6th position, and I think they're kind of carrying on with that trajectory. You know, they should have beaten Secret. We should be talking about them in the top 4. They didn't. We're not. And I think that's the real struggle outsiders had, is kind of staying in with the pack.
Can we get that graphic back up again, please? The team graphic for outsiders. I know it's a very silly request.
What have you seen?
I love the FMX overlay. It's like the sides are overlays with the checkerboard on top of the shirt to make the black shirt fit well. There it is. That's what we got. There it is. I just wanted to distract you for it. Here we are. And what about on the other side with BDS? Because, like I said, they seemed like this wounded beast over the past few days.
They do. And I think I can't quite place a finger on it other than the fact that BDS, we hold them on this pedestal as the best team in Europe. As a lot of people, you asked me, 6 months ago, do I think they're the best team in the world? I thought they were. Didn't do well at Invitational. And they've come in and they've carried that form on into EU. They've got an overtime victory against Navi. They've got a clean victory on border against LFO. But disappointing loss against Rogue, where they potentially should have won it. Even more disappointing loss against M&M, who we've already seen outclassed today on the same map that they played. And I think realistically, it's not about BDS's opponents for them. It's about BDS themselves, their mentality, how they can recover. And the one player that I really want to highlight your attention for is Rafal. Mr. Consistent right throughout all of last year. Wasn't amazing, wasn't poor. He just did his job. He did it effectively, breached what needed breaching, played what needed playing. Now he's struggling this stage, and I think that's a big reason why BDS is struggling.
Yeah, as a team overall, they're struggling. Look at the M&M game. They lost a 2 versus 1, and then they lost a 5 versus 3 and a 5 versus 3 when they were up 3-0 in attacks. That shouldn't happen. We have a head-to-head for you guys that I want to highlight. 2 players is FMX and Brida, and the reason for that is simply because both of these teams are struggling quite heavily at the moment. And we're looking at their 2 support players actually doing a decent job. Usually what we see when teams are struggling is that their support players are having a really rough time. Here we've seen it kinda the other way. Both their support players are playing really well, but it's the other people around them that just can't cover up for it.
Brida is one of the best supports in the game, and even despite BDS struggling, 7 plants is absolutely incredible from him. But FMX, he's come into the stage known as a more aggressive player, but he's also playing the hard support well.
Well then, our map for the series, what will it be? 9-man pool, 8 around, 1 is left, and which one?
House.
Just say random stuff. Wilkie is watching right now. You got him confused.
I want to see a run out garage.
Oh
Year
my
one,
god.
Season 1.
And Jonas messing it up like he always did. Wow.
Like always.
Bank is the one we're going to. BDS selecting it, and they started on defense with Outsiders opting for the attack. Fresh.
They've banned it. They've insta-banned it in the first 4 games, BDS. So this potentially might be a pull something out of the hat. They've traditionally been a decent bank team, though, so I think they'll be able to pull through on it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a map that they have one of those weaknesses on. This is one of the basics. It's been around almost forever, it feels like. I don't think the map leans either way here.
All right, Outsiders versus a wounded BDS. Can BDS step back up, or will Outsiders claim the prize? There's supposed to be a Badger, but Badgers can be very, very strong, especially when you put a baguette in front of them, I assume. Just my own kind of 2 cents.
There's Milosh and 3
Fabian
very confused faces in this room.
Fabian Fresh, thank you very much. Let's toss it to our casters. It's Fluke and Fresh. I don't know. Go for it.
Why are you feeding baguettes to badgers?
Why not? What do you have against
Blame
Badgers?
yourself. I feel like you shouldn't feed them baguettes.
Why not? What if they want to eat it?
It's not part of their natural habitat.
What is their natural habitat?
The woods.
They don't have baguettes in the woods. Where are you
Do you
from?
not stroll through the woods and
I
just
don't
find a
stroll
baguette?
through the woods.
No, me
See
neither.
a badger eating a baguette. What wonderland do you live in? Hi, welcome to the cast. We're going to be here. I've just got Fresh again. Hap's home, sick, sadly. Everyone send your love to Hap, yada yada. I've made this speech before. Where did he go to veterinary medical school? No, enough about badgers, enough about baguettes. Let's go to Bank and get this deposited into a good game. As you get your headset sorted out and unravel yourself and press the on button, I'll break us down. Bank, as they said, it's not the most common BDS. They try and remove it all the time, but this is the thing about BDS, is technically they have pretty much every map in their map pool. They've been a roster for the longest amount of time. They've been a 5-stack. They were one of the only ones that hadn't changed. They have played best of 5s. They've played best of 3s. Heck, probably they've played best of 7. Who knows what they've done, but they've done it all. And they have a map pool that is probably hard to rival.
BDS.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I've just got the headset.
Hi, no, I waited.
Yeah, they used to have a small map pool, especially when I used to be in the kind of comp scene.
Yeah, that was a while
I always
ago.
used to think that they would struggle in best of 3s because they used to be able to hide behind multiple bans. But they go away, they work on their weaknesses, which is what we saw right throughout the end of 2020 and all of 2021. They improved their map pool. Bank is most definitely in that. We've even seen them foray into the new maps already. We've seen them play Border, we've seen them play Skyscraper. So they've got a very good map pool, which I think, come the time that, they're in a bit of a slump right now, but should they get out of it and get some majors, that big map pool will help them.
You good? You settled?
I am.
Glasses off?
Glasses off, yeah.
Ready to cast? Welcome back to the casting desk.
Thank you very much.
Here we find ourselves in a slightly different story. Obviously, we had a bit of a scrappy back and forth before, but in terms of the momentum of these two teams, you would have come into this Playday expecting, I guess from our side of expectations, things to be a little bit more in the side of BDS and a little bit less in the side of Outsiders, who for this split so far have been fantastic.
They've played very well, and I think they've made some good upgrades. FMX has been a good upgrade. Smash has been waiting for so long to be the next Russian player. As it is, the Russian team's made a flurry of changes, and he, along with a lot of his previous teammates through that CL run, got given an opportunity, and I think he's taken full control of it. But, Milan, Pasha, Rask, they've been around the block before as well. And I think, ultimately, Outsiders, their expectations is pushing on, and it's looking at about pushing into that top 4, which is something that they've always struggled with.
I think that's always it as well, because we've long known the talent of the roster. The thing about the Outsiders roster, or the core of it that used to be other teams and has had the changes, is there was a lot of great players, but there was never a great player. There was never a player whose name sort of echoed before the team entered a server. It was just a really solid team that, when you're playing against the Shaikos, the Pengus, the whoever else that they've played against in their time in Tier 1, not sort of having that level of difference, whether it's hurt them or hindered them, either way it's led them to now, where they have a couple of changes, but that core of the roster is so comfortable and so familiar now with this, that this is maybe when we start to see the marble sculptures and the greats start to become even greater. It starts here with the approach, BDS opting to defend the vault with a little bit of a hold on the middle floor.
Yeah, and we're going to see Outsiders kind of push in, do a full clear. You've got a player coming in from lobby, that will be Pasha. And you've also got Milan and Co. just on the top floor. So they're going to try and identify top floor, any players there. If there are any, I think they've all gone by now. Clear them out, clear the mid floor, and then set about your execute. For BDS, it's all about time delay. The longer Lems can stay alive, especially if he gets a kill, the better for BDS. If they manage to get him out nice and early, then it'll be better for Outsiders.
Now, Milan, he's going for a bit of a creep around the middle. He is well versed at getting into fights and's had a very good play so far. There's a little bit of a slow before, and he's not going to give the reveal because you can still see the pings coming back. It's going to come to the pressure of the buck above. If he can force an uncomfortable rotate, if he can just get one of them to go a little bit wide, he doesn't quite get it there. They're going to hop their way around. They're playing super cautious, but they're not going to hand it over just yet. BDS, they're still confident in their skill, their ability to just hold on to the hatch on the top. It's locked in, and Milan goes a little bit wider, takes care of the goo, and there goes Alems down and hits the floor, picked up by Milan, who's able to drive his way through. Shaiko knew it was sort of a get out or get dropped, and well, there's a second. Renshiro was able to down smash on the far side, just on the entrance there to bring some attention, but he should be able to be got. There's Rusk falling from the heavens, picking him up, and 2 early kills with a minute left.
That's a 5v3, but crucially, there is no denial on the utility that you've got rid of. You've got rid of an alibi, you've got rid of a lesion, impacts at most. Realistically, they were there to die. They would have wanted to take at least a life with them. They haven't, but you've got your Smoke on side, you've got your Echo on side, and then you've got your Malusi and Shaiko, who can look to retake up the main stairs when the execute eventually does come in. However, Outsiders, it looks like they're potentially looking for a lobby hatch drop and for a lobby hatch and an elevator hatch drop and go for the west side, the B site, which is the less traditional site to go for, which means actually Shaiko comes into play because he can use his gun in this particular defense.
Well, here's the pop around the bottom of green, and you can see the Echo players actually pulled himself down into Garage. Rafal's going to keep himself as far away as possible, and Playday does the opposite. Cuts Smash in half, and Rask suffers massively on the approach down the hot drap that was the Echo around the back line. Rafal has the cover. The Smoke is making sure it keeps himself clear. We see an Echo drone bouncing, maneuvering, and manipulating its way all the way across. They're not going to be able to get to him in time, but they might not even be able to get to the floor. The kit needs to hit the ground. Rafal pulls himself back. The timer ticks over. It's a fight, though. Shaiko locks it off, and Shaiko locks it off. BDS, the 3 players, lock it down.
And I think it was a really nice decision from Outsiders to go and clear BDS. They got themselves 2 kills, got themselves in a nice position. That's where the good decision stopped. I think the decision should have been to go for server. It was much more advantageous for Outsiders in that man advantage. They ended up dropping the lobby hatches into smokes. They're facing up shields. They're facing up, not Renshiro, Rafal playing in Garage they just had no idea about. And realistically, that 5v3 becomes a 0v3. It was just a little bit misinformed towards the end of the round. And BDS, I think they've got away with one there a little bit.
Now, they've lost that opener here, and we find ourselves heading to opener on the second, the site that's sort of grown in a lot of preference. You'll see a big fight over the quad wall that you see Renshiro reinforcing. Shaiko's getting the extension there through the core, and that archives hold that leads on. There is sometimes a bit of an extension to the top floor as well, but usually it's, often it's a single solo player that pulls himself back. But how BDS want to do this, I guess we'll see how it comes together. You have the danger of entering those CEO windows. It's a risk for C4s, it's a risk for attention, and usually it's a risk for a bit of waylaid information, which, to be fair, they're only really bringing in the pockets of technically Alems and Renshiro to give them a little bit of audio and maybe a visual. Yeah,
so what you're generally going to see out of BDS is kind of horizontally extend and vertically potentially extend, as there is only Renshiro kind of creeping around the top floor. But once again, there's a big fight that usually happens over CEO and the kind of associated rooms next to CEO, then vertically onto tellers and archives, and then teams generally move across, as you say, for the quad wall, because you can't go for the quad wall without having tellers control. So for BDS, the win condition is all about the time. How much time can they delay in terms of the attackers of taking that ground? Because they will lose it eventually, BDS. However, it's how quickly they lose it.
Wow, Alems almost lost out entirely there. Pulls himself very quickly back out of that little core, whether it was FMX from the top. Either way, it's a big square presence that's starting to come through here for Outsiders. A minute's passed, but Bank is a hefty map. There's a lot of space, and even with the slight changes that gave you a little bit more option for rotate, it's still a big rotate. Over the top, Milan once again droned in, seeing if he can try and catch an early engagement here. They've otherwise got themselves cleared out as the pressure comes over the backside of Kanto. As I said, there's often a loose player on the top, but the important role of that player is, if for anyone other than Vigil, get out of there. You're not going to be able to waste too much time. They will find you, spot you, and properly gut you.
Yep, top floor obtained for the attackers within a minute is pretty good. Now it's all about moving those players out of Teller's and Teller's office kind of area. Rask actually knows there's a player there, does get the kill as Shaiko finds one right back onto Milan. And realistically, that's Teller's control also obtained. So a good first minute 30 from Outsiders. This is where they fell apart in the previous round, though, was the second half of the round.
That's it. And Shaiko sort of made a bit of a presence and a statement there on White. He swung himself up, got that kill, and then pulled himself a little bit back down. It gives them food for thought. Says, well, I've taken your opening fight. They've lost Milan, they've lost a couple of grenades, and they've lost what is their entry battle. Now they're going to see if they can try and build behind it. Rask, he's steadily opening his way up, just getting a little bit more width, forcing them into uncomfortable situations. It's a big rotate, and as he said, it's the time to sort of get things considered. There's a C4 that won't pop because it was the catch of the player, but there is a player just behind the popped C4 that, well, gets in a little bit of a scratch fight, but with a minute, they've got to start trying to focus on the quad wall, which is a huge cause of concern.
And there's 4 impacts on side. Should Renshiro realise it, he can impact trick this Thermite charge straight off the wall. He will go for it. He will get it. One more Thermite charge to go. FMX might need some help from his Hibana here to actually start opening some holes so that no impact tricking can occur.
Well, there's Pasha going for the blind. There's still angles coming out over the top, and Renshiro finds one, does the business, but not quite in time on the other. Suffers a bit of a spray as they go through. They're going to get the reveal on that Prisma ping, but otherwise it's 20 seconds, and you've got to try and dig your way through. He's down to technical 2 versus 3, but buried inside the site. Either way, you've still got to try and fight your way to him. Pasha suffers a bit on the entrance. Smash is revealed and very quickly picked up and locked off in the box. Pasha with the long shot, but not for very long. BDS take open in the second round.
And I think the same thing occurred here from Outsiders. They kind of just fell apart with a minute 30 to go and really took too much time. That impact tricking particularly hurt them. Very small breach from the Thermite. And also the castle playing there deep behind the bomb is a very normal position for a player to be. I think it was FMX that got caught off by it as well, which was a life that, you know, shouldn't have been lost. It should have been an angle checked as he was peeking it. Good round from BDS again. And this is where BDS can start getting scary, when they start getting confident, because they know that man for man, they believe that they'll be a better team. And I think it's all been around BDS's mental that's been holding them back. So 2 rounds to start them off defending Bang is very good for BDS.
The thing I will say is I know that we like to have a lot of confidence in BDS as one of our best sort of region teams, and has been for a long time when they're doing well. The last game they played, the opening 3 rounds, was the best they've played all season.
True.
And then they lost every single round after that because attack time out, the conversation happened with Eminem, sure. And Eminem were able to pull a couple of rounds, that happens. But then BDS just fell out of the game. And it's always that risk now. And, you know, they need to start being able to lock out games. We need to see BDS suffer a little bit and pull back. We need to see a team that has the dynamic, because if everything's going great, fine. But as soon as things start to wobble, that's when you get stressed. And yeah, okay, these rounds, these opening 2 rounds, haven't been as good as the opening 3 rounds that they had before, but they've wobbled a bit and they've kept themselves going.
And they found a way to win.
Let's just see if it keeps going.
Yeah, and we're talking about BDS as a team that were unbeaten through stage 3.
Exactly.
Went a long time without losing in this league, and have already lost twice in this league already. So it's a team that is in a bit of a precarious position right now, as Milan's playing a game of cat and mouse with an Echo drone, and he will lose his life as Alems peeks off the information. That's an Echo drone traded for a life, and BDS have come out of that in a much better position.
That's it, and that's the thing about Echo on this map as well, is you can really explore the boards. You'll see them used as tools to just get so much intel. It's big spaces, and those cameras, it's the reason that you sort of see SAM cams used so well, is sometimes even if the information is visible, it doesn't really matter if you're in a position to respond, as they did. FMX trying to find his way into the top of square. There's some pressure coming out directly to CEO, but whilst they don't have anything locked in, it's quite a big box they've made themselves here. That soft, that reinforcement there between CEO and the connecting other bomb site, BDS have really sort of built that into a bit of a kill box, and well, the Shaiko gets a couple of kills of his own out of the stock window. They're sort of saying, come on, try and get inside.
I think Shaiko is back to the Shaiko that we kind of know and love and we're used to seeing. That's a double kill in round 1, 2, and 3 so far. BDS, they're in a 5v2. They know that they'll probably know that there's a player on the rappel, maybe not know where FMX is, but they'll be happy to sit behind their power position. Shaiko can still play. I think he was behind a shield just outside of Janitors there. Doesn't actually need to foray into stock trading office. Can just wait and hold the holes. And realistically, for Outsiders, this round's lost. They just need to try and identify 1v1 engagements and try and win those if they want a cat in hell's chance of winning this round.
That's it. Alems, he's sort of getting the rebuild. There was a drone at his feet a second ago, but he's so buried on the back line, nobody's really going to get to him. FMX and Smash, they've sort of got a pincer, but it's sort of only on a BDS player if they overextend. FMX, well, he knows someone's behind that shield now. He popped a couple of bullets, but you're looking at 40 seconds, and you're just looking at no route through. Nothing is accessible here for the team.
There's no map control, there's no nothing, and I think they tried getting stock, and Shaiko said no. And then realistically, what do you do after that? FMX has gone in top square, Smash is going to have to try and go through lobby. They know he's there, Rafal's just put chip damage onto him, and realistically, this round's over. Renshiro and Rafal gang up on Smash, and Renshiro also peaks FMX. That'll be the round, and that'll be a flawless from BDS.
I think, and I'm throwing my mind back to the BDS game on the other day. Shaiko, I don't know if it was in the opening 3 rounds where he was 7-0-0, and this time he's 7-1-1. It's crazy for him to be 7-1-1 and be like, this is a worse performance than last time.
Yeah.
He's dropped off.
Yeah.
He's only 7-1 instead of 7-0 this time.
He'll be replaced any day now. Oh, he can only achieve 7 KD instead of, well,
instead of
it's not quite a 7 KD,
No.
is it? We won't get into that. That's what Haps fought to say.
Yeah.
Well, actually. Anyway, great performance once again, and I don't know if outsiders are taking this because they need to. I'm guessing it's because they need to.
They need.
But also, this was the same round that Eminem took their time out. As you say, only, 4 days ago on Thursday when Eminem did win 7 rounds in a row to come back against BDS after being 0-3 down.
It was a huge accomplishment, and that's the main thing to say here, because, and it wasn't just helped by the fact that Eminem, for the first time this entire split, played the way that people know they can play.
Yep.
But BDS quietened off. They suffered, they struggled. There's a couple of uncharacteristic mistakes that unfortunately are becoming a little bit characteristic of BDS this split season. This might not be the most aggressive, sharp. We've seen them play 3 rounds in a row, but it's still controlled. And that's the very important part right now, is to see if that control over themselves, over the map, continues as this game develops.
One nice adaptation from BDS here is previously in round 1, when they defended lockers and CCTV, they roamed. And we're still seeing a roam here, but we're seeing a much more considered roam. We're seeing a Lems this time on the Kaid. We're seeing Rafal playing the Echo, and we're seeing a Tachanka. So this is going to be a roam, but if you remember, they were 5v3. Or they were 3v5, should I say, not 5v3. BDS went down 2 men early doors. So I'm wondering if this kind of adaptation is a bit of a false roam. It's show a bit of presence, shoot some drones. Show a bit of presence, shoot some drones. But ultimately, the aim of this roam is to get back on site in a 5v3. They were very, not rigid, they were very stubborn last time in terms of dropping. This time I want to see them fall back a little bit earlier.
Well, the catch on Intel, and Ranshiro is going to drive that drone all the way back in. Playday will hope that he can play that Tachanka. What you sort of do is you open up the angle into the default plant spot, and then they're behind a shield, and you bounce the angle. So you can use the same way a smoke will down that little red corridor leading towards gold. Long arm smokes over, the Tachanka can do it from an even further step away, and Playday has done the maths well calculated. It bounces perfectly, and if they go for that plant spot, it's just another stack and set of delays on already a lot of delays. The call of information, they're wasting a lot of time elsewhere, and this is just adding to that roam game on the middle floor.
Yep, and I think BDS were early kind of pioneers of that Tachanka, particularly on Bank when it was new in Stage 3. They were very early on using that Tachanka. We've seen outsiders, they've got realistically most map control. They've got rid of one of the Echo drones now. I think the Mozzie is still playing in open area, still being stubborn. But once again, there's a minute 30 gone with not too much map control for the attackers. 4 drones taken out, and now they'll start dropping off. Shaiko will presumably be the next person to drop off. Alems will maybe try and shoot a drone and drop down. A nice round from BDS compared to round 1.
Well, that's it. You know, Shaiko, he knows that he can take a drop, and he can try and hit this as he goes down. He's drawing as many of them towards him as possible. He's wasting as much time as possible, as much drones as possible. All of this utility, all of these steps. He's taken the drop. He was always going to. That was always the plan. But look at the extra 20, 30 seconds he's just wasted.
And realistically, there's only limited information now. Outsiders are going to have to take a bit of a risk. I think they've droned just about enough so they know the mid floor's clear. But as you say, a minute to go. They've not really started opening up for a server plant. They're only just thinking about starting to go for hatches. The way FMX is actually looking at hatches, it looks like they might still be trying to consider a lobby drop. I still don't think this is the right decision. I think a decision is probably try and plant on the reinforcement or try and push deep when you go for your execute. Because of this Tachanka, you're seeing the denial there. It usually lends itself, if attacks push deep, they can overwhelm because the Tachanka has to have the gadget out rather than a gun.
And look at that, Playday. And there's so many times when you're irritated about people not using utility when they can. Well, there's a bit of utility. Burnt dropped in on the gold on the backside. Ranshiro gets one, Shaika gets another, and another, and another. It's Alems with a huge C4, able to catch them, I believe, as they hit the floor of the hatch itself. Unless he just wide swung onto the vault, it leaves only Milan. I'll go back to the compliment I was being paid before, because I got to pay one right now. It's another flawless round for BDS.
It's so easy to be a caster. And I'm not saying this because I've just done a game and a half.
Let me hear.
But you get the benefit of being able to see the full point of view of both teams.
What I will say, it's also the Observer.
Yeah, it's also the Observer, giving us great
Medics and
views.
easy shout out.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. But my point is going to be, because I'm going to criticize Outsiders here.
Okay.
I'm going to say that they actually did a worse round 4 than they did in round 1. They knew exactly what the set was going to be. And what you expect from the attackers there is to be faster, is to be better, to make better judgment calls. Outsiders, they did the same attack, but it was slower. They still went for that lobby hatch drop, and they got punished royally. You know, it took a 3v5 in round 1 for BDS to win on Locker's site. Flawless in round 4. So, and BDS didn't really do anything different. And that's why I say it's easy with our view of it all, but Outsiders made a really poor call in that round.
How does this compare to your Staff Hub games? I promised Demo I would talk about it.
Talk about Staff Up.
Yeah, he wanted me to ask you about it.
I think Staff Up is a little bit like Outsiders are right now, which is just hitting your head against the wall constantly and doing
your
the same
experience
thing.
of your team, or
well, I don't know. It's all good fun and games, and there's a reason why some people are staff. Is all I'm going to say to that one, Emmy, and not players. Yeah. But I think Outsiders, again, their adaptation, and it's one thing that we've not seen a lot of today. Eminem were the same in the very first game, no adaptation whatsoever. Outsiders here struggled with adaptation, and I think that's the biggest problem is BDS did some slight adaptations, but not really. I was expecting to see Outsiders faster. Milan's used a frag grenade. I don't know why he's not used a Gon 6. I personally would value a Gon 6 to clear that castle barricade over a frag grenade, and he missed, so that's 2 gone.
I mean, in that situation as well, that's 2 grenades as a dedication of a single bit of utility there. It's not adding a huge amount of pace as well. I mean, lo and behold, you could have punched through that if you really wanted to just have it open for a later aspect. It takes a handful of punches, sure. You got a sledge. You got a Gun 6 if you want to do something quick and punchy and hope you can swing around behind it and catch somebody by surprise. That's always an option. But once you've missed the first grenade at that point and things are already sort of drifting away from you, it's such a valuable resource. There is a bit of a scrappy fight there. Smash over the top forces Alems a little bit further back. The smoke suffers, and that's the first time one of those backline support ops has actually been a bit of a forefront, but not caught out.
We're seeing deja vu again. A minute 30, Outsiders have done well. They've taken top control. They've taken lobby control. Realistically, it's about moving players out of tellers. And then this little fight that you see over the office next to open area. What went wrong the last time they attacked this is they tried opening the breach without considering the impact trick. If they do that again, and the breach gets impact trick, then the defenders can just front up. And then realistically, it comes down to a time, and it comes down to defenders looking at a doorway. Rask finally finds his kill onto the man, 5v4.
Now, apologies for the sound, but we'll be obviously trying to bear with it as best as we can, I'm sure. It's one of those things where you're starting to pick up and it's improving your game, like training with heavy weights on. We'll see what we can get called here. FMX, talking of his training once again, trying to get through a quad wall by himself. Pasha shows up. The Hibana that you asked for before is there to try and offer at least some assistance, but whilst it's jammed, well, they're going to have to try and battle either side. There it is. Breached, popped open. Nobody in a position to try and respond. Obviously, Ranshiro was the man with the impact previously, but it's not like they didn't have them in pocket. It's Shaiko on the roam round. Playday, he's keeping them at bay in the meantime. It's a strike round on the back of the stairs, but Shaiko is being watched. But either way, he still has to be dealt with. They cannot just leave him there. Milan on beepers is going to try and swing his way around. There's a close fight, and he's baiting into it, and there it is. Caught out of Lems, but Shaiko caught Pasha around on the backside. As I said, it's a problem that needs to be dealt with, but he is doing the dealing. He's somehow got himself off into the little runoff room. There's a grenade going to the back of the chassis, but Rafal is close by. He's just going to pop himself into a new position. A slight movement, a slight shaking around. Smash, but he's not going to get the kit in time anyway. This is a 5-0 BDS.
I was so hoping Shaiko stayed alive there, because we was talking about his lowly 7 KD, and he was on 11 KD. Once again comes in with another double kill. Again in the round. Massive play as well. They knew he was there. He was being held. He still aggressed into it, still got those kills, won his team the round. 5-0 for BDS. Ultimately, it's going very well for them, considering most people would say Bank is an attacker-sided map.
It's a frustrating day, and you can sort of see it on the faces of outsiders. As I said, they've had a very good split. They've had a good sort of time, and you know, it's always tough. I think when you go into a game against an opponent that hasn't been playing to their level, especially someone like BDS, who everybody's prepared for multiple times. It's not just the first time they're encountering this roster. It's not the first time BDS has been perceived as the upcoming threat. But they're slightly weakened. And at that point, when you know that this is them, you're sort of sitting at being like, well, are there going to be changes this game? Are they going to be in our own head? Are they starting to? And it enters this guessing game, these problems. This, a very quick snap change there. That's why people bring the butt.
Raska's actually been very good on the buck, on the vertical. I think most of his kills, I think at least 2, maybe all 3, have been from the vertical, from the buck play. And, you know, whilst outsiders are struggling, I did want to kind of commend that, because he's been quite good getting those entries and creating that map kind of control for his team.
The thing about Shaiko's 11-2, almost 11-1, it's been so calm.
Yeah.
It hasn't been one big ace round or a big 4K round, but it's been constant, and that's that sort of threat of that player. And that's that sort of threat of this team, is they've been lacking that consistency.
Yeah, they have. It's nice to kind of see it somewhat finally turn up.
Yeah.
The kind of Shaiko that became the expectation for him, I think, during 2021, was realistically, how many kills is he going to get and how well are BDS going to do? Are they going to win 7-0 today? Are they going to win 7-2? And this is kind of, I don't want to call it too early, but this feels like a return to form of BDS in this particular game. I'm not saying in the context of the season, but in this particular game, they're looking like the scary BDS that we all, you know, once knew and loved.
But it's not the scariest BDS, and I think that's a good thing, is because for me, that shows this sort of idea that they've gotten over the hurdle. They're playing a cool, calm game, and they're a cool, calm team. That was the thing about them, is they always played at the same pace. They were many times credited as being the metric bar, and as they try and hold off and rebuff the bar on bout of pressure that's coming through onto stock, it's a much more cautious approach. As if you throw your minds back, a double kill was what greeted Shaiko and stock last time. This time, more focus paid by the whole team towards this angle.
Yeah, much better from outsiders. Really, you know, take some time, but make sure you don't lose 2 people to Shaiko in a position that you know he's there. This time they've taken a bit more time. A minute 30, a Smash is actually repelling into sight. He doesn't, you know, he hasn't seen anybody. He's just going to crouch walk in, does take some shots, hits an alibi prisoner. They know he's there now, and it's all about what will they do to try and get rid of him as Milan finds a kill onto Shaiko.
Important take there, and the Echo drone's finding its way around. Still a lot of time, and Smash is making moves, but as they lose another body, that's the kit going cold. Lems goes off for a hefty rotate. Underneath, he's done the business and a little bit of slowing down, and he's sort of caused the problem. And a question, where am I? Come find me. The rotation around white is where he's going. They're building a back line back on the back of the site. Smash digs in. Milan gets his second for the round, goes down, but the pick comes up from Finka. Now, suddenly, it's an LM's show. He's got his third. He's trying to fight his way up the white stairs, but he doesn't have to overextend because you've still got Rafal as an Echo. He's looking for a bit of a swing round. He doesn't quite make the journey. Pasha with the F2 locks it in. Lems doesn't really have anything he can do from underneath. Whether he waits to see if he can try and draw a fight out, they're going to go and stick the plant on the furthest possible side away, and that gives him a second to go for a rotate. 3 staircases, 3 options, and unfortunately too late to try and spray through the floor, so he has to go his way up back onto the side of Banana, our first post plant of the game so far, and he's been able to get himself at least round to an edge. A pre-fire gives the game and the gambit away. They know where he is, they know where they're stacked up, and they've given themselves a huge amount of width. They don't need it. Pasha finishes up what Milan started, 5-1.
Well, it won't be a 7-0.
It won't.
It won't be. And I think sometimes you've just got to lose your brain. We saw P4 do it, dropping a hatch with full utility, getting a free care. We saw Smash doing it, being repelled into sight in a 5v5. Sometimes you just need to win a round out of absolutely nothing, and that's what outsiders have done there.
Okay, Staff and open, and we go to the other side. Outsiders obviously have used their timeout. BDS, now is the time to lock this away. And that is the most important thing right now. This has been BDS in control and sort of on a cruise throughout this entire game, but they need to just have that finish. They need to keep this confidence. Now that they've had a blow, now that they've suffered, and you know, this opening round could end up dictating the rest of the fate of this game, as strange as it is to stay in a 5-1 position.
Yeah, you start worrying if they start going 5-2, 5-3.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it going to create... I don't think we're going to get to that, because I think BDS, you know, have ultimately just been a bit better than outsiders today. Pasha's taken some chip damage. Oh, he's run through a wall.
Yeah, he's
Oryx.
just hit walls.
It's fine. It's not a problem. There's a Thunderbird on site.
Yeah.
I was like, how has that happened? But yeah, he's doing his thing. He's running through the walls, making the rotations a bit cleaner. You know, there is a mute, there is a maestro, but why not if you're Oryx, right? And you can just overheal yourself back up to full HP.
Now, BDS going for their approach here. And to be fair, if we're quoting the most recent game and how things went away from them, they did pop their own 7 rounds in a row comeback in the opening Playday against Na'Vi, I believe it was. So they definitely have either side capable. It's just that comfort and that confidence to keep a performance at a level after the year that they've had. There is a bit of a stretch to the second story and a very quick fight that pops out. Shaiko finds Milan above. Ras gets an immediate response onto Renshiro and tries to pull his way back as Rafal heavily hits the other person. Pasha was caught in the back line of a crossfire there, and the Hurricane is 2 bodies off the board.
BDS have just not worried about the top floor. They completely had just left Milan up there. We'll just go direct straight for tellers without doing the usual checklist. They went to checklist 2 instead of checklist 1. It allowed Milan to get a kill, but was immediately refragged. And much quicker. 2 minutes left, and we're starting to maverick the wall. We're starting to breach the wall, clear it out if we're BDS. A nice angle taken by LMs there. Does get chip damage onto Smash, which means BDS can start putting outsiders under a lot of pressure onto site. And this site, once this quad wall is open, is very hard to play.
You don't always see the Maverick brought against this quad wall, but it does add a lot to them. It allows you to just break your way in. Usually you don't get it seen because you can open up across the top, and that's what a lot of teams do. So at that point, bring extra utility to burn through it and try and get the grenade kills instead of something you might more prefer to bring in terms of engagement. And here, well, this is the thing that BDS like to do, is play Maverick, and Rafal is pretty good at him. They get themselves those angles, as you said, but you still got to try and make something happen with it. Alems is going for a ping fight and finds it. Ras gets caught off on the opposite side, a 4 versus 2. Gonna head to Beepers, gives themselves a little bit of width as it's a 4 versus 1. Just nobody left. BDS 6-1, and I said that round was important. And it might prove to be.
It was important, and from BDS's point of view, it was confident, it was decisive. It was almost path of least resistance siege of, we don't care about top floor. We think they've only got one guy up there. Let's just go straight to tellers. What's the most that guy can do if we hold him from Skylight, from top square? And ultimately, that's exactly what it was. It was a nice kind of new approach that we've seen come out of BDS on that particular site. Gave them so long, and that's when you start seeing defenders try to make plays and then get punished for it.
Locker CC, and here the tough day at the office for outsiders continues. It has to be a flawless return, and even then, they cannot get maximum points out of this if they can pull it off. But the worry is BDS look controlled, and that is that aspect. That is that underlined and full-stopped word for this performance. It's across the board, and sure, Shaiko having a cool 12-3. A calm and collected 12-3 game. The rest of the players are still pretty much all in positive. In fact, all of them are.
It's been good to see Rafal really step up. I mentioned him in the pregame because he's actually struggled. And it's not something that we're used to see him struggle. He does his job. He often plays the Maverick. He's playing the Monty here. So we're not expecting high KD out of him. However, we also don't expect him to be like minus, I think he was about minus 15, somewhere around that. Don't quote me specifically. But it's not what we expect on his part. So today, So today he's much better. 4-2, doing his job very well for his team. And I think, like I say, when he does well, the whole of BDS does well.
Okay, outsiders. Now that you're in this weird bout where there's sort of...
Minus 13.
Minus 13. I shouldn't have quoted you. You told me not to, and I did.
Yep.
Rask, he's got himself the extension here onto the side of stock. He's struggling to get these deployed, but he finds the angle there instead, baiting the hop in the play. But Pasha is actually the first to suffer quite heavily. I'm not entirely sure what bounced his way. All the grenades still in pocket. It was just a continued push there. Pasha's gone, and maybe it was Breda on the back of Rafal. Again, this quick pace towards the site. They forced them out already 2 minutes, and they've got themselves stacked in, looking at the default plant spot.
Crucially, they've also got hatch control as well. Normally with the roam, if you go direct, as you will see the Monty, normally you don't also see hatch control given by the attackers. The attackers have now got both, which means they can set for a plant even if it is just behind a Monty shield, with realistically defenders not having much say in it. Although they do have a 5v4 man advantage, so they could look to flank, in the middle of this execute if they can.
Now, as they find themselves getting that opening pick, FMX is able to find his first, and You know, well, better late than never, I suppose, and let's see if they can try and build behind it. A lot of damage done to a lot of different Outsiders players, and that's the big risk right now, because it only takes the side of a grenade to get the lock-in. They're going to see if they can just plant, and there's nothing to directly counter it outside of the chance of, obviously, you know, maybe a long-armed C4, and that's a bit of a risk right now with the Monty just holding down, because... well, how do you stop this getting entirely locked in? There is maybe the threat of a rotation, maybe the threat of the player above. Rask, you've got to do something sooner rather than later. And as they try and stick it, the cover comes through from Enshiro on the hatch. There it is on the backside. He's dropped in, and now they find themselves in a post plant. It's a 3 versus 3 technical with FMX on the ground, but they have a Monty. They have a hatch control. They have a player behind the Monty. What do you do?
It's all about the retake here. What can Rask get? Shaiko is still above. He will still be holding the hatch as Playday finds one back onto Rask. Shaiko's just holding that retake. Milan is the Oryx. He can dash the Monty, which is why we're seeing the unshielding. Playday managed to find another one. Shaiko finds 2, and that will be the game for BDS in a swift 7-1 fashion.
Well, it was BDS at a level. It was BDS at a rate, and unfortunately it was Outsiders never really finding their teeth into this game. They're a team that has played very, very well throughout the split, and this was unfortunately one of the worst showings that we've seen from them. They just couldn't really get to grips with what Bank had, but BDS did, and that's the sort of important thing for them is if they'd have been shakier, maybe it could have been punished more, but they weren't. Can they keep it up from this point onwards?
Yeah, I think there's a rough day at the office for Outsiders. Maybe just write that one off. Obviously, you've got another game in, what, 2-3 days' time. For BDS, though, that's a great game. Puts them in a position where they can really start challenging for where they feel they belong.
Right, and that's it. Thank you for joining me
Thank you very
on
much,
the casting desk. I have to send you back onto your way. We've had an 8-6, or an 8-7, or is it an 8-6, and a 7-1. The two opposite ends, and I'm sure our desk will have just as much fun breaking it down after a very quick break.